Every town has a dark side. The story we have for you today is about a man who, by day, was a respected community member, and by night, a psychopathic serial killer. For years, he preyed upon the city of Indianapolis, looking for his next victim. 24 known victims? Maybe more. His name was Herbert Baumeister, an entrepreneur, a husband, and a father of three. But behind that picture-perfect life, he was hiding one of the darkest secrets we've ever seen. The disappearances. It began with men vanishing, young, often gay men, from Indianapolis and the surrounding areas. One of them was Roger Goodloe, who left his mother's house one summer night in 1994 for a night out. He never came home, and he wasn't the first. For more than a decade, men had been disappearing without a trace. Police dismissed the cases, assuming these men had simply left town to live more openly elsewhere. Their disappearances weren't a priority, but the truth was far darker, because someone was hunting them. The survivor. Then came the break. A man named Tony Harris came forward. He told police about a man who called himself Brian Smart. They met at a bar in downtown Indianapolis, and Smart invited Tony to a house outside the city, a place with a pool and mannequins posed around it. When Tony asked about them, Brian said, "I feel lonely here. They keep me company." Later that night, things took a dark turn. Brian wanted to try something he called autoerotic asphyxiation. He wanted Tony to try it too, but when Brian wrapped a hose around Tony's neck, it went too far. Tony could barely breathe, so he pretended to pass out. It worked. Brian let go. Tony escaped with his life. He later told police he believed Brian Smart had killed his missing friend Roger. The revelation months later, Tony spotted the same man again, followed his car, got the plate number. And that's when police discovered Brian Smart wasn't real. The man's real name was Herbert Richard Baumeister, a well-known businessman, owner of 2 Save-A-Lot thrift stores, happily married with 3 kids. But looks can be deceiving. The double-life Herb Baumeister had been living a double life. Diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic and antisocial, he'd shown disturbing behaviors since childhood: cruelty to animals, obsessions with death and bodily fluids, even urinating on teachers' desks. As an adult, he built a successful business and bought a sprawling estate, Fox Hollow Farm. It was a mansion surrounded by 18 acres of woods, a perfect hiding place. When his wife and kids were away, Herb went to gay bars, lured young men home, and took them to the pool room lined with mannequins. He drugged them, strangled them, burned their bodies, and buried what was left across the property. The discovery. By 1996, Herb's life was falling apart. Police, now armed with Tony's testimony, asked to search the property, but without a warrant, his wife Julie refused. Then one day, Julie remembered something terrifying. Their son once found a human skull in the woods behind their home. Herb had brushed it off, saying it came from his father's medical collection. Now she wasn't so sure. When she filed for divorce, Julie finally allowed investigators onto Fox Hollow Farm. What they found there would shock Indiana and the nation. The search begins. When detectives finally stepped onto Fox Hollow Farm, they didn't know what they were walking into. At first glance, the property looked peaceful. Lush green lawns, a pond, and an enormous mansion. But scattered through the woods and the gravel drive were small, charred fragments. At first, they thought they were stones, but when investigators took a closer look, they realized they were human bones. Over the following weeks, more and more remains surfaced. Dozens of bones, teeth, and fragments of skulls. Forensic experts determined they belonged to at least 11 different men, though the total number could have been much higher. The family's idyllic backyard was, in fact, a graveyard. The killer on the run. By the time police made the discovery, Herb Baumeister was gone. He'd fled the state, crossing into Canada. His behavior had grown erratic. He was depressed, paranoid, and convinced that the walls were closing in. He spent several days wandering Ontario, sleeping in his car, writing strange notes to his family about failure, about being misunderstood, and about wanting peace. Then on July 3, 1996, park rangers found his body near Pinery Provincial Park. He had shot himself in the head. Next to him was a suicide note. It made no mention of the murders, only references to business troubles, family problems, and stress. He never confessed to a single crime. The aftermath. In the months that followed, investigators continued combing through Fox Hollow Farm. They unearthed thousands of bone fragments, enough to fill buckets. Some remains were identified through dental records and DNA. Others never were. But the mystery didn't end there. Because some of the unsolved murders, young men found strangled along Interstate 70 in the 1980s, matched Herb's profile exactly. Those cases became linked to an unidentified killer known as the I-70 Strangler. And while it's never been proven beyond doubt, many investigators believe they were the same man, Herb Baumeister. The legacy of Fox Hollow Farm today, Fox Hollow Farm still stands. The new owners have reported strange experiences, unexplained shadows, footsteps, and voices near the pool. Some say the spirits of the victims remain, never able to leave the place where their lives were taken. But beyond the haunting, the story of Herb Baumeister serves as something even darker. A reminder that evil can hide behind a smile, behind a successful business, behind the image of the perfect family man. Because sometimes, every town has a dark side. Thanks for spending a little time with us on this week's episode of Every Town. The world can be dark sometimes, but stories like these remind us to look a little closer, to notice the people around us, to care a little deeper, and to hold tight to the good in our own small corners of the world. If you liked today's episode, follow the show and leave a review. It helps more people find these stories. Until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and never forget, every town has its secrets,